Selling Bitcoin may be life-changing. It may just be a part of your portfolio, or it may be the worst decision you'll ever make.
I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
My name's Darren. I get the question a lot of how do you sell Bitcoin? When should you sell Bitcoin? Where can I sell Bitcoin? So I thought this was completely obvious, but for a lot of new people getting into Bitcoin, it doesn't seem that way. So this video will be those who are new to Bitcoin. They're having their stash grow a little bit. They want to take some profits. Those who haven't got in yet, because in order to buy an asset first, you should probably learn how to get rid of it if you need to. And this video is also for those crypto OGs to give you something to think about, or, tell me how wrong I really am. So we're going to cover how to sell it, where you can sell it, implications of selling it, when to sell it, and at the end I'm going to give you an argument for why selling Bitcoin might be the worst decision you can ever make. So owning Bitcoin kind of starts out on this progression. It's called the dip. So first off, you're completely scared, full of FUD. What is this Bitcoin? Then you dip your toes in. You say, oh great, my Bitcoin's up. It's a little bit up. And you're on top of the moon. You're like, I'm going to be rich. This is the greatest thing ever. And then you get your first, like we just had, week of minus 20%. Your investment just went down 20% in a couple days. You get to that bottom and you say, oh God, I'm selling. Maybe you sell some, maybe you keep a little, maybe you've made it through that weekend period. And then it starts to rise again. And you start to learn more about it, like, oh shit, the government money really backed by nothing. Slowly but surely you'll start climbing the ladder of saying, this is more important than any asset I have. This challenges everything I believe. This is better than any currency out there. So the basics of selling Bitcoin are a lot easier than you think. Bitcoin is liquid. It's open 24/7. You can sell it to anyone, anywhere, anytime. You can even use Bitcoin to buy actual assets or consumer goods that you need on a daily basis. So let's compare it to other assets that you might own and why it is more liquid than not. So stocks. So if you own stocks, you probably have a broker. That broker is only open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m., 5 p.m., depending on where you are, and you have to sell and buy through them. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is open 24/7. You keep it in your control, and you can buy and sell from whomever you want in the marketplace. Okay, let's talk about real estate. If you have a real estate property, you're going to need that real estate agent. You're going to need, open houses and probably take you a couple weeks to sell that house at best, unless you're in this crazy Canadian market right now, where Bitcoin, you can literally liquidate all of your Bitcoin in a matter of minutes. So what about gold? In order to sell gold and bring that gold to an actual dealer, bringing thousands, tens, hundreds of $1,000s of gold might be a bit of a challenge. The gold dealer is going to need to weigh it. They're going to need to see the metal consistency of that gold and then pay you out for it. Whereas Bitcoin, you can really just walk in with literally $1 billion in your pocket. So where can you sell Bitcoin? So typically, this is where you bought Bitcoin, and this is an exchange, an OTC, an ATM, probably for someone who is new. So an exchange is an online software that allows you to change dollars for cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency for dollars. So if you've purchased any Bitcoin on an exchange or store that money on an exchange, it's super simple. All you need to do is create a sell order and sell that Bitcoin at that market price. You can also create orders at, say, I would sell at this price, and then hopefully someone in the future would fill that order and take that next price. If you have your Bitcoin in a wallet or you plan to move it to a wallet, in order to sell it from your wallet, you're going to have to move it from your wallet to an exchange. And all you need to do is go in your wallet, press send. You're going to go back to the place you want to sell it, the exchange, copy that receiving address, send it back to the exchange from your wallet, just as we did before, and sell it at that market price or create a sell order. You then take that money that's in your exchange account, again held by the company, into your own bank account. This can be through e-transfer here in Canada, wire transfer, Swift in America, PayPal. There's lots of cash out options on exchanges. Each come with their own fees and advantages and disadvantages. If you want to sell a large amount of Bitcoin, I highly recommend an OTC, and this is an over-the-counter. So the exchange or software in the middle is gone. So you'll go to a company or a broker, and you say, I would like to sell my Bitcoin. They will give you a price, usually close to market price, and they will give you that cash, and you send that Bitcoin directly to them. There's no software involved where your funds could be sitting on the software. Your Bitcoin can be sitting on the software for a long time. It also mitigates some of those fees and can be a little bit faster. Another place to sell would be an ATM. So if you just Google Bitcoin ATMs, you can actually walk up to an ATM and sell a little bit of this Bitcoin. It will print you out cash. Don't expect to be pulling out hundreds of thousands of dollars from an ATM, because I believe they don't carry that. Next place to sell it would be peer-to-peer. And there's places like HODL, where you can actually find a person like myself who's willing to buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin. And this is directly peer-to-peer. There's no company involved. They'll give you the money and you send them the Bitcoin. This can be beneficial because it can be a lot more private. When you're using an exchange or something like that, they're usually government regulated entities that have to record all of your transactions. They have to record your ID and everything. But if you just sell it peer-to-peer, the only person that would know you sold it would be that one guy. A lot of times in these HODLs or the local cryptos, you're actually dealing with like brokers, and they do need this KYC, or they need to know your identity sometimes. So if you're lucky enough to find a peer-to-peer person, this is kind of what Bitcoin was all about, right? There's no middleman in the way. You just agree on a price and you get it done, and there's really no paper trail if you do it right. So a great thing about Bitcoin is it's not just an investment where you have to sell back to cash like a stock or something. It's actually something that you can use as a currency to buy assets or consumer goods. So if you want to buy like consumer goods, I'd recommend a company like CoinCards. You can trade your Bitcoin for any type of gift card or redeemable cash back. And there's lots of sites out there that are just like this. People are actually now listing hard assets such as homes for Bitcoin. So theoretically, and this has happened before, you can actually buy a house with Bitcoin. So you don't actually have to spend it on cash. You can trade it for a better asset. You can even buy a Tesla now with Bitcoin. So the whole idea of this video was to show you how easy it is to sell Bitcoin. So there are implications of selling. And in most Western countries, Bitcoin is considered a capital gains asset. And this means whatever profit you've made will be taxed. So here in Canada, you will be taxed 50% on your gains. Now, if you made $100,000 just in profit on your Bitcoin in, say, 2021, people think you're going to be taxed 50% of that 100,000. It really depends on your tax bracket, where you're located in your province or in your country, what your income level was before, what your other incomes were. So you can look up a tax calculator like this, and it will give you kind of a breakdown on how much tax you're going to need to owe on your capital gains. And this is for when you trade it for any other cryptocurrency, any other dollars. A tax-free way of receiving money for your Bitcoin is through a loan against your Bitcoin. So you're not actually selling your Bitcoin, but you are able to borrow against that Bitcoin. So what you do is you deposit your Bitcoin into a company like Ledin.io, and you receive the funds to what it's worth today. If you do not pay back this loan, the company will receive your Bitcoin, and then it will act as the sale. Now, the problem with this is you need cash flow or steady job to pay back these profits, and not everybody has this ability. If you want to get started with Ledin, highly recommend it. It's worked great for me. You can get started with a link in the comments below. This is a great tax-free option to take out Bitcoin profits. There's a lot of other companies that do this, such as Unchained Capital, BlockFi, Celsius, some more risky than others. So probably the biggest question you're looking for is, when should I sell Bitcoin? So first, I want to talk about your situation. Everyone is different. You got to live life. You can't just be paper rich forever and say, oh, I'm sitting on 100 Bitcoins and I'm never going to sell. Like, what kind of life could you be missing out on, right? Would $100,000, to somebody in their 20s mean the same to $100,000 to someone who's in their 70s? I could use that money right now, buy a house, to start a life, to build a business that could create more money for me. Or, if you're older, you could maybe keeping that Bitcoin would help your family, in the future save. So really, really reflect on what's important to you and when you want to sell, or if you ever want to sell, and what do you value the most? Just pretend every time you sell or let go that it's going to go up in the future, because historically, that's what it's done Okay, so you've decided you're going to sell. It's the right time for you to sell. This can change your life. You want this money for something. So when's a good time to take profits? When is Bitcoin going up? When is it going to go down? Well, all we have right now is the price history of what it goes on. But essentially, there's always been 3 years of a bull cycle and 1 year of a bear cycle. So a bull cycle means it's on its way up, it's positive for 3 years, and then it dips back down for a 1 total year. And it usually follows the halving events. Some of the models built today follow this stock to flow ratio. And if we keep following this, we can kind of see that the top, is going to be a certain amount of months after the last halving. Again, these are just models. They're meant to be broken. There's a lot of other factors you need to look at in the world, such as market cap, what the world is doing right now, how much money we're printing. There's so many different factors. I think looking at those macro big pictures will, also determine where this is going to go. Time of year is also important to sell. I'd notice a lot of people sell in January, and this is for tax reasons, because if you sold in January 2022, let's say, you don't have to pay that profit all the way until January 2023. So you pretty much have a year and 4 months here in Canada, and I believe the US, it is April your taxes are due. Whereas if you sold it in October or November or December, you would have 2021, you would be paying that tax in April of 2022. You can use that profit a longer term. Maybe the price is really down in January and you want to get a higher price in October, and the math is going to work out where you're going to make more anyway. So ask yourself, is this a good time to sell for tax purposes if exchanges and governments know how much you've made? So if we take a look around and look at current monetary policy around the world, we realize governments have literally been printing money out of nothing. 43% of all Canadian dollars were printed this year. More debt was taken on by this administration than in the history of Canada to date. This is only driving up all other asset prices because people need somewhere to store their wealth that is not in cash, because cash loses value every single year the more they print it. And this year it's lost almost 50% of its value. So people are rushing into real estate, rushing into stocks, and hopefully rushing into Bitcoin. If we've done the research with Bitcoin and understand all the properties which make it a hard money, why would we trade it for money that is melting away? Owning 1 Bitcoin is equivalent as owning 6,000 acres of land. There's only 21 million Bitcoins in the world. That means not every single millionaire will be able to afford a Bitcoin. So you have to ask yourself, is this really worth something to give up for cash that's literally melting away? There's no right or wrong answer. You gotta live life. You gotta figure out what's right for you. Hope this answered a lot of questions of where, when, how to sell Bitcoin. If you're looking for videos on the best places to buy Bitcoin, the options of where you can store Bitcoin, there's lots of other videos that you can check out of mine on my channel. And thanks again.